here's my basic reaction to like all this stuff is look, first of all, absolutely not. Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong with Jeffrey Epstein. Like the guy is whatever the Democrats and the media says about him, that's totally BS. Here's my basic read on it. First of all, I'm the vice president to President Trump. My loyalties are always going to be with the president. And I think that Elon, he's an incredible entrepreneur. He's actually done, I think Doge was really good. This sort of effort to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in our country was really good. And look, man, I'm always going to be loyal to the president. And I hope that eventually Elon kind of comes back into the fold. Elon's new to politics, right? So his businesses are being attacked nonstop. They're literally like firebombing some of his cars. And I think part of it is this guy got into politics and has suffered a lot for it. But I mean, and I get the frustration there, and I get the frustration that, I mean, look, Congress, you got the spending bill. But the main purpose of the bill is not actually spending or cutting spending, though it does cut a lot of spending. The main purpose of the bill is to prevent the biggest tax increase.
J.D. Vance isn't mincing words. In this brutally honest interview, Trump's VP pick defends the president against media smears, lays out the real purpose of the new tax bill, and delivers a clear message to Elon Musk. Attacking Trump helps no one, not even Elon. Vance argues that Trump's reforms are working, from border control to economic rescue. But the country can't move forward if its boldest innovators and strongest leaders are locked in ego-driven conflict. There's too much at stake and too much waste still embedded in Washington. This isn't about loyalty, it's about results. Vance lays bare how much American money is funneled through fake NGOs, how little ends up where it's needed, and why Trump's team is finally putting a stop to it. The media won't show you this, but JD will.
But I understand, like, it's a good bill. It's not a perfect bill. Like, the process in DC, if you're a business leader, you probably get frustrated with that process because it's more, bureaucratic. It's more slow moving.
Yeah.
So I think there's just some frustrations there. But I really, man, I think it's a huge mistake for him to go after the president like that. And I think that if he and the president are in some blood feud, most importantly, it's going to be bad for the country. But I don't think it's going to be good for Elon either. I think he looked at the bill. He didn't like it. And I think it's a good bill. But again, there are things you can criticize about it. Like, the president would be very open and say, this is not a perfect bill.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump doesn't get to write the bills, right? Congress has to write the bills.
Okay.
And you got to work with them to try to get something that is as good as possible.
Okay.
So here's what I'll say about the bill. Number one, prevents the biggest tax increase in American history.
It prevents it?
Prevents it. Because taxes are going to go up on everybody in a really big way at the end of 2025, because the old tax law expires at the end of 2025. So you're going to hit a big tax increase. We're trying to prevent that from happening. We're also trying to do stuff. Okay, so you got a lot of people working long overtime hours in this economy. We inherited bad inflation from Joe Biden. So no tax on overtime. No tax on tips, right? We're in Bob Ritchie, we're in Kid Rock's great restaurant. His servers would not have to pay taxes on the hard-earned tips that they get. So I think that it's a good bill, and it does a lot of good for the American people. But like, look, Elon's entitled to his opinion. I'm not saying he has to agree with the bill or agree with everything that I'm saying. I just think it's a huge mistake for the world's wealthiest man. I think one of the most transformational entrepreneurs ever, that's Elon, to be at this war with the world's most powerful man, who I think is doing more to save the country than anybody. I'm 40 years old, anybody in my lifetime. You think about it. And if you look, obviously I'm biased, but you look at what we've done on the border, you look at what we've done with trade, fighting back against a generation of theft of the American dream, which is what the president's trade policies are starting to do. I just think you got to have some respect for him and say, look, yeah, we don't have to agree on every issue. I'm talking about, if you're Elon Musk, you don't have to agree with us on every issue, but is this war actually in the interest of the country? I don't think so. So hopefully Elon figures it out, comes back into the fold. I know the president, for a couple days, I'll tell you, I don't want to reveal too many confidences, but was getting a little frustrated, feeling like some of the criticisms were unfair coming from Elon. But I think has been very restrained because the president doesn't think that he needs to be in a blood feud with Elon Musk. And I actually think if Elon chilled out a little bit, everything would be fine. I mean, I think that he's making a mistake in going after the president.
Okay.
Yeah, I think his heart is in the right place, man. Okay. I do. Like, I think he got into this for the right reasons. I think he's frustrated. I think he's an emotional guy. Honestly, I'm a very emotional guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's the president. is it's interesting because if you read the media reports, you wouldn't necessarily see this. He's not like quick to temper. Like he's not one of these guys who flies off the handle. That's a little bit more what I'm like, honestly. I think Elon means the best, but I think he's making a mistake. I really do think he's disappointed about the bill. He's, he disagrees with some of the things that were in there. He's an emotional guy. Look, it happens to everybody. I've flown off the handle way worse than Elon Musk did in the last 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
But my hope is comes back, says, look, made some mistakes. Didn't mean to say everything. Let's smooth it out and let's all be friends. I just think like the idea that the president should be impeached is, I'm sorry, it's insane. It's totally insane. The president is doing a good job, and you can look. You're free to disagree with him, right? Everybody has a First Amendment right. If I have a disagreement with the president, then it is my job, obviously, to provide the president honest counsel. Like he doesn't need me to be a doormat. He needs me to actually say what I think about an issue. But when the president makes a decision, man, he's the general. And when the general makes a decision, everybody's got to go and execute that order. And that's kind of how I think about my job, really, is to be a good ally and a good friend, provide honest counsel to the president, but also when a decision's made, you go out and get it done. He listens to a ton of people. It's one of the more interesting things about his leadership style is if he's got a big decision to make, he talks to everybody. And I think it's why he's like in touch with normal people is because he doesn't just talk to like congressmen or people with a lot of money. He tries to talk to everybody. Like I've seen him ask the gardener at Mar-a-Lago what he thinks about a particular issue. I've seen him ask the people who work in the kitchen at the White House what they think about an issue. He's constantly trying to understand what other people are thinking. And I mean, look, Doge continues within the White House and within the executive of the country. I mean, look, there's a lot of ways in which we are wasting the American people's money.
Yeah.
Sometimes spending it on crazy stuff. Sometimes spending it on like actually counterproductive stuff. I think Doge has saved already at least 170, maybe $200 billion. Hopefully it's going to save more. One of the crazy things we all figured out like first week or so we're in the White House, okay, is there was a payment that should be stopped because the president signed an executive order to stop a payment. And this is like day one of the White House. We're like, okay, how do we stop this payment? Because somebody's trying to make this payment and nobody knew where like the computer was that actually wired the money from the US taxpayer to this entity. So dude, the amount of waste and the amount of just grift in the federal government was off the charts. It's still, it's getting better, but there's still a lot more I think we can find. Again, like I care about the country, and I think the country's better off if under the president's leadership, Elon's helping us out as opposed to fighting the administration. I don't want him to fight the administration. I know the president doesn't want that, but here we are. Politics is a place where people stab each other in the back.
Yeah.
And you can't get anything done unless you're all on the same team and you're actually committed to getting stuff done together.
Entrepreneur. He is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the tech industry. Root out. The new administration vowed to root out corruption in government. Mince words. She doesn't mince words when giving feedback. Brutally. The critics brutally attacked the movie for its poor script. Smear. The article was clearly intended to smear the candidate. Embed. Values of honesty and hard work were embedded in his upbringing. Bureaucratic. The process was slowed down by bureaucratic red tape. Entitle. Employees are entitled to receive health benefits. Restrained. His response was surprisingly restrained given the provocation. Quick to temper. He's brilliant but quick to temper under pressure. Fly off the handle. She often flies off the handle when things don't go her way. Doormat. He lets everyone walk all over him. He's a total doormat. Counterproductive. Yelling at your team is counterproductive and damages morale.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.